We're continuing our study of the Seminar of Jacques Lacan, Book 1, Freud's Papers on Technique, 1953 to 1954. We are now looking at Chapter 16, titled Preliminary Interventions on Balin. There's not much to say about this lesson, honestly. It's some introductory remarks on the work of psychoanalyst Elise Balin, and talking about her work, which is titled Primary Love and Psychoanalytic Technique. Lacan objects to even the work's conceptual starting positions. He says that this analyst's work advocates a hypermoralism around the construction of a person's character, and he says its prescriptions are nebulous. He continues this criticism of Balin's work into the next chapter, chapter 17, which is titled The Object Relation and the Intersubjective Relation. Let's spend some time looking at this instead of chapter 16, actually. Here, Lacan zeroes in on the fact that in Balin's conception, the answers regarding human development are just too pat. On Balin's conception, the human subject begins with a primary love object, the mother, and then the healthy subject in later life drifts towards a secondary love object in the form of a romantic partner. Again, Lacan thinks the answers posed here are too easy. Not only that, he thinks it entirely leaves out the richer symbolic dimension of the human subject. As we've said before, according to Lacan, the healthy subject moves from the imaginary phase, where he takes for granted the world of his senses that renders reality to him, to a symbolic phase where the subject recognizes and misrecognizes the social world as a world of authority figures and rules and so on. And his sets of desires that the world operates according to, he recognizes and misrecognizes. And the healthy subject will, at some point, hopefully, find a space to express his own desires in this symbolic web. The unhealthy subject, on the other hand, will repress what he wants and not find a way on his own to render his desires into this symbolic dimension. It is just this symbolic dimension that is missing from conceptualizations like Balin's, according to Lacan, which are just focusing on a subject and an object. Every subject and object is always mediated by the symbolic dimension, says Lacan. Lacan in this chapter also has some nice words to say about philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. For instance, on page 217, Lacan is talking about this point that he agrees with Sartre on. He agrees with Sartre that the love relationship is never as uncomplicated as the relationship between two equals. Lacan says, paraphrasing Sartre on page 217, quote, "We want to become for the other an object that has the same limiting value for him as does in relation to his freedom, his own body," end quote. One of our limits, a limit to human freedom, is the physical limitation of our body. Well, Lacan and Sartre say that love imposes relationships on freedom as well. Lacan goes on regarding love that it is, quote, "much more than a free commitment. We require that a freedom, that is, the freedom of another person, accept its own renunciation so as to be, from that moment on, limited to everything capricious, imperfect, in truth inferior, the paths along which it is swept by its captation by that object which we ourselves are," end quote. Again, Lacan is trying to demonstrate how even in the question of love, issues of the symbolic are bound up with the answer. That might be a confusing place, but let's go ahead and stop there. Thank you for listening.